Welcome to Alternate Endings.
Half audiobook.
Half podcast.
Full apocalypse.
New episodes every Monday.
Start your week considering how everything could come to an end.
All right, welcome to another episode of Alternate Endings. My name is Nico, returning.
Ivan here.
And Tyler over here.
Today we're talking about Frozen Intervention, a story that I wrote, narrated with my friend Tyler here.
I'm over here as well still.
Hasn't moved. Yeah, well honestly I kind of want to ask you guys what you thought about it. Because it was like one thing that we haven't done yet was aliens. So this was kind of like my first attempt at an alien idea.
Because it ties in with the weather. I mean, weather is huge right now in all aspects with global warming.
Hot topic.
Exactly, it's a hot topic in a hot world. But this is a cold world, ladies and gentlemen, as you've
hopefully
gotten by the spacesuit type feel of an exosuit to be able to go out into the frozen tundra. Do you actually have a setting? Where is this frozen tundra?
Not really. I just, because it doesn't matter where you're at.
The whole planet's that way. Right. So I thought that was really cool because there's so many levels to it of this is an alien species we don't know anything about yet. These people see this alien creature for the very first time as they die from it. And yet they've had this alien block out the sun for long enough that literally the entire planet is just covered in ice. I think it's a really cool idea to think about how much intelligence goes into a species that can calculate all those little movements and follow specifically exactly where the sun is going to be.
Can change a planet easily.
Oh, yeah.
Just like humans, but we're not doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Yeah. First question, as the Earth is revolving around the sun, this spaceship is like blocking the sun continuously with it.
Right, so no matter
it follows
what,
it all the way around the sun.
Yeah, and it's always going to be in between the sun and the Earth.
I loved it because I was not expecting an alien/weather combination. In fact, maybe I'm a little ignorant or not knowing much source material here for this topic, but I don't know that I've ever seen aliens affect, or any sort of outside Earth being affect weather in order to make it easier for them to come onto Earth and have a chance against the home life. That's a really neat idea. And I don't know if this is like a incorrect cognitive bias, but for me, thinking about aliens making it cold is interesting versus warm. I feel like maybe warm is more... Maybe it's just because it's the opposite of what's happening right now, but...
It's essentially they're terraforming to what they need it to be. I mean, as far as we know, maybe they don't even need it that temperature. They just know if we go to this next planet, this is guaranteed to kill everything.
And we don't even have to do anything.
Yeah. The very minimum we'll have to do when we get there is wipe out the very last of each group. Luke talks about we had 13 people at our base, and from a couple weeks of no water, we are down to 9 already. And there's not very many of those. I'm assuming most of the plants probably under the same circumstances.
Right. I pictured it's like already slim pickings out there in the world. When this thing came in, it caused another ice age, essentially, is what I thought. And so like wiping out all life on the surface. But I was reading a couple articles that, kind of played with the idea, like if the sun was to just disappear or something, like what would happen to the Earth. They were saying that life would die within like a week. And you saw that same article.
Yeah, it's really quickly that things start to go awry. Plants die really quickly. Temperature within a week is already basically down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe is what the article is going off of. It takes a week for that to be the worldly average. And then after a year, it's already down to negative 100 for everywhere. And it says just a couple years after that, they think it would level out at a negative 400. Yeah. And so obviously plants are going to stop.
Nothing survives.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to stop photosynthesizing. Oxygen's gone. So plants die really quickly.
One thing that I thought was interesting was, like, since the Earth, it captures a lot of heat. Like, the core is literally a melting ball of metal, So, like, since the surface... it's a lot cooler, but it still has that temperature on the inside. So that's why some articles that one article was saying that geothermal stations were pretty much the only way that humans could survive.
I mean,
unless you're one of these aliens.
Unless you're an alien, yeah. And I think it's, when you think of smart aliens, I know this is kind of a split sidetrack, but having that picture that you so perfectly painted of these lips that meld with its teeth, you don't know where they start and end, and these long arms and big legs and 8 feet tall and no nose, you think something that's ugly. Yeah. And yet this creature is so smart that it was able to travel light years upon light years away to a planet, perfectly track its sun's patterns to destroy it, and then come down noiselessly and wipe out the rest through pure. Like, that's when I think of a smart alien, I'm thinking like little guy, green, like smooth head, but more. And it's probably just the human nature in us to try and correlate smart with humans. But I don't know if you did that on purpose of having it still be super alien-like and obscure, but.
We always do see intelligence like humans, because what else is intelligent out there? That nothing, we don't know. And so, like, maybe it is that just subconscious thing of us, like, that's what we compare intelligence to. Who knows what could be intelligent, or even what we consider intelligent. Something else out there could be intelligent in a totally different way, but we just don't see it because we're so used to how things work here on this one planet in out of the entire universe.
So I had a question for you. When they all got to the planet roughly at the same time, did you imagine they just, like, appeared? Sort of like they traveled through space? Or did they have, like, little pod ships that got them from their orb out in space to Earth?
I kind of pictured that they had, like, little crafts that they were sending down from, like, I guess the mothership, whatever you want to call it. But they're not necessarily crafts that we understand. I mean, like almost like just light is all you would see if you were there. Like Luke and Frank only saw just bright lights, really. But yeah, I pictured it was more of like, rather than, it was a physical thing.
Well, I think we mentioned it before on the show, but it's really easy to imagine not being able to even understand what technology is to come. I mean, we mentioned before, I think on our War Machines recap, that if you took a smartphone back to the Victorian era and handed it to them, they wouldn't know what it was. They wouldn't even know, why do you have this? What is it for? They couldn't even fathom, first of all, what a phone was.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't even work, so.
No 3G
what is
out
this
there.
Flimsy brick?
Oh, shit, we're almost on 5G now.
Yeah.
We're right there. Cancer, here we come.
I left my charger back in 2019. But it's interesting because maybe these aliens got to Earth in a way that we don't even understand. Maybe it wasn't exactly like, oh, I walk through this portal and I pop out on Earth, or I'm in a space pod that gets me through the atmosphere. Maybe it's something that we wouldn't even fathom, but 100 years from now, someone writes a story like this, like, oh yeah, they would do this because now we have the tech.
But it's an object big enough to block out the entire sun and house pods that can send down. So, I mean, this is a huge ship, I'm assuming. Am I right?
Yeah, and I even mentioned that, like, Earth did try launch nukes or everything that we could have at the time. And something of that size, like, compared to if it was to happen today, what effect would we have on something like that? If they had the technology to actually be able to travel through this massive amount of space to get to here, then any technology that we have, there's no way it would have an effect on these beings, is what I think.
And what I love with that is we so typically think of rockets as our way to travel through space, but yet this alien race has perfected it. In my mind, I'm imagining a giant cookie, but like
delicious.
Okay, hold on. This is interesting because I always saw it as a perfect spherical orb, but it could have been flat.
Yeah.
It could have been a disc on its side. And it would have needed less mass to get big enough to block out the sun.
To be honest, that's what I pictured, like a cookie, or like, or kind of just like a
little
you take
dome
some Play-Doh
type.
and you like just make a little sphere, circle, and
then you
like a giant frisbee.
Yeah, and then you just bend the frisbee a little bit. That's kind of how I pictured the craft.
Okay, regardless, it is a massive.
However you want to picture it, but
yeah,
the point is it blocks.
You
the
tell
sun.
us, what did the ship look like?
Yeah, post in the comments.
Yeah, do it. No, but I mean, it's such a cool idea to think about all these different ways of back in the past, even in the 40s and beyond. They've always tried to predict what would happen, and we will always forever try and predict what will happen. Like.
And we'll probably forever be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like. you never know. Some people are occasionally right. Here we are right, people. This is going to happen.
Was not.
Oh.
I love the interplay of how the stations relied on each other. Because if stations were in different areas and different parts of the world, they're going to have greater access to different resources. And it'd work like a giant net where we all have to lean on each other. And if one goes down, that doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone who you've been trading with and sending resources to.
And I know we always talked about, we've been talking about the names and stuff, but actually this time, I kind of threw the names in there, but the stations, obviously Oasis, and then Ambrosia was I think it was the Greek god of food, And so, like, his station
so they
was
were the
resources.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean,
this little salt and pepper.
And one was Thule.
Thule is actually a throwback to the Thing. Thule Station is in the Thing.
Isn't the Thing.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
If we are really stretched this thin as a civilization, like, and it was like everything was happening so fast because the surface temperature is dropping, like, think about how quickly things would have to been moving in those moments of, like, when they first arrived. You know, like, people are moving quick, you know, because it's dropped to zero within a week. So I always pictured that it really wasn't like, oh, we have all these resources. It was like thrown together almost. And so that's why they're like barely surviving. Like, okay, this guy's taking care of the water. We can only do the food. And like, maybe it is the region or something like that. But it was always like, in my mind, a hasty thing. Like, it was civilization's last attempt to like keep moving forward.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought. It's like a combo of that is, all right, this person knows how to do this, and you've got 10 people with you. Okay, you guys do this because you don't have enough resources to do anything else. You over there, we really need food and we're close. You need water, so you do food because the water is right here. Yeah. And they just kind of go, like you said, they throw it together because there's not enough people to be able to do everything in one station. You literally need station upon station to be able to collect it all and do it.
Well, it adds a lot of terror to it because, hell, I'm stressed enough just being late for something or realizing that I have 2 hours to do something that's going to take me 5. But if you realize you have less than a week to build a structure underground and survive sub-zero temperatures forever, you're not going to have time to like put the best minds together. Let's look at the architecture. Let's make this really efficient. You have to go now. There's no time. And I would almost think they'd have to like use old missile silos.
That's
like,
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, they'd have to repurpose things that were already there instead of having time to think about, okay, we got a military grade bunker. We're going to put all these resources in here. We're going to design it. Now they're probably like using scraps because they don't have time.
Right.
And there's going to be chaos for all the people who say, wait a second, there's a missile silo 50 miles from here that we're going to live in from now on. Well, me and my family are going to get in. And it's like, yeah, but millions of other people want to do the same. I just that would be so scary. So scary.
But this even goes to, they don't know how bad it's going to be, I'm sure, for the average person. To me, it reminds me of the bird story. How many people are going to stay in their houses because they're like, oh, it's just cold right now. Yeah, that's not going to be there forever.
I got a heater, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and so who's to say how many people take it seriously enough to, I mean, I'm sure people are probably going to, vast majority going to freak out when something blocks the sun, but you're still going to have the people that think, oh, we can wait this out.
And maybe if it was just a weather anomaly, you know, they'd be less serious, but then you have the aspect of like what's causing it.
A mystery.
Everyone's already freaking out because you have this disk that appeared and is blocking out the sun for you on purpose, so it's nighttime all the time. And now all of a sudden people are saying we got less than a month before this ground is not habitable at all. And people are not only questioning the meaning of the universe and, oh my God, aliens have shown up, but now we have to scramble for survival. Things are literally going to be so cold that none of the heat structures we have on Earth right now are going to suffice. There's no communication. This object
just assumptions. Yeah. Assumptions. Right. They what did they call it? Like the thing, thing was... Oh, yeah. Came 2 years ago or whatever it is. Right. Like they really didn't know. Even Frank was like the creature. Didn't even necessarily say an alien came and did this. He just didn't know what it was.
They didn't even know. Like, how would he have known if that was?
It was the first time they'd seen them.
Yeah, nobody knew it was aliens. Hell, for all everyone on Earth knew, it was other humans, or it was some random slip in the universe. We only know it's aliens because we got to see the very end at the outpost.
But honestly, though, can you imagine one half of the world, similar to what in War Machines, what the Americas did all to the eastern side of the planet? If one side was like, all right, we're going to build something that will perfectly block out the sun only when it's on their side. And then as it gets back to us, we'll let it and it'll stay thaw. But we slowly freeze the other side of the planet. Like, there's so many different things that I'm sure people would come up with as ideas because there is no explanation. Like, myself, I'd probably go extraterrestrial, like, oh, this is aliens for sure.
Oh, me too.
But that's,
but I kind of want aliens.
But I want it to be aliens.
Yeah, I always do.
You're at day 8, and you're like, all right, it's already 0 degrees. You're the president meeting with, like, what is it? What do we do?
Mr. President, what do we do?
Yeah. All right, boy. You are going to shoot it.
And
they tried.
And it didn't work. Well, if you used a weapon that changed the weather over a certain area as a form of, like, secret war, that country wouldn't even know. Like, let's say we had a foreign enemy, and we started making it so that they would have a drought from now on. Nobody would know we were doing that. It would just be kind of happening in the atmosphere. It leaves a lot of gray area.
And I mean, with all the forest fires that start in different places and how big they're getting, really all you have to do is send someone, hey, go out there real quick, light a little match, just let it go because it's going to do itself.
So what you're telling me is the weather is controlled by the government. It's a conspiracy.
Chemtrails.
Oh, no!
Educate yourselves, listener.
Trust me, go to youtube.com. Just type in chemtrails and 9/11 and you'll be there for hours.
The rabbit hole you will go is so far down the silo won't be deep enough
to save you.
Now, I love that you mentioned the word silo. Nico, I have to ask you on the air in front of the listeners here, have you heard of or read the Hugh Howey series, the Wool series?
I've heard of.
Okay.
Never read.
Highly recommend out there, listeners. It is a book trilogy. I won't give away any spoilers, but in some facet, it is very similar to the story, and I can honestly endorse it that it's probably up there with like my top 10 reads of all time. It's such a good story.
Dang. And Ivan reads, let me tell you.
He
reads.
It's the similar way where everybody has to live in these silos on Earth because something happens to the planet, and that's about all I can tell you. But it's riveting, and the way that it lays out is just so neat. A lot of it starts because the silos are interdependent and something happens and the main character
very similar.
Yeah. But there's also a messed up plot twist that starts from the very beginning. They have these sensors outside of the silos and they get clogged.
Spoilers, by the way. Spoilers, by the way.
That's not going to be a spoiler. They get clogged and dirty. Part of the criminal justice system is that if you do a crime that's bad enough, you get sent out there to clean the sensors, but it's a one-way trip because they can't let you back in. So you clean the sensors and then you die. And the main character gets sentenced to clean the sensors, and the book trilogy starts from there.
That's how it starts? Mm-hmm. Dang, that's pretty cool. And they made 3 books about a dead man.
Spoilers? I don't know.
I promise you it changes, but I highly recommend it.
F my story, man. Just go read this.
I just think about what would I do in Frank's situation? I mean, you've got Francis, the one character, sitting there knowing I'm the last one alive here. I just watched my daughter get ripped to shreds. Couldn't do anything. How do I take care of this water situation? Obviously, it's down. Like, what's going through his mind and all of this? And I wanted to ask you, how did he survive? Just purely hidden?
So first, the way I thought that he survived was kind of luck, I suppose. That he just was he hid and he didn't come out. He said for 3 days. He was just the only one who was able to survive. And I pictured it pretty much like I was trying to capture the fact that he was traumatized or maybe in shock just because of like, I can't even imagine going through something like that, you know, like how would I react? Probably not do anything. And that's kind of how I picture like Frank just sitting there like he just saw horrific things, you know, there's nothing that he feels he can do at this point.
He essentially just gave up. And
he gave up.
Ready to sit there until he died from the cold or hunger or whatever happened. Right. That makes sense.
It'd be hard to muster up the courage and the motivation to save some strangers you've never met and you don't live with who need your water supply, but everyone that you love has already been taken from you and you're probably going to die anyway. I mean, everyone's sitting at home now in their comfy vehicles or wherever they're listening. They think, no, I would stand up, I'd do the right thing, and I'd get that water supply, but I'm sorry, you just don't know yourself in those situations, and I think we could easily feel and understand how Frank could just say, screw it, I'm done. And
he hit that point.
And I guess on top of that, you don't know who else was hit. Did you have a reason why the water plant was hit first? Are the aliens that smart they knew where to hit first?
I thought so, yeah. That's what I kind of thought, and that's the whole reason that the aliens came back is because literally within 30 minutes of them getting the station back online, I didn't think it was just random, you know, I had a reason for them coming back because maybe they thought the job was done, that's why they left.
And so they show back up saying,
once they got to
hey, we've sensed this over there. They are back like in their language.
Right, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You need to go back and finish the business because
some still happens.
That's how they're living. They survive with the water. That's what I was getting from it. I just think it's cool I love our discussions because hearing from the authors, and I'm sure y'all probably feel the same, from the authors about those things that you're like, hey, I'm picking this up. Am I right about it? Is really fun to
kind of confirm some of those.
Yeah. And I'm
hidden
sure
details.
Exactly.
Well, imagine if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, and not only that you could read it now, but you could sit down with Tolkien and ask him, what were your thoughts about... what were your thoughts about Gandalf? You know, why did you write Samwise this way? How cool would it be to sit down with J.K. Rowling of Harry Potter and get to, like, actually...
Rowling.
Oh, my God. Get to actually ask your favorite authors what they were thinking when they put this certain thing in the book. Because, and here's what... someone had said this a couple months back, and I really agree with it. When we read big books and we take in all these pages and all these words, I think all the details get lost. It's the aura of a story that sticks with you. But what is neat about getting to sit down with an author and actually ask them is that you get to keep those details and you get to actually have them answered instead of just letting them all file into this like big background soup
fall to the wayside.
The book, yeah.
At the same time, it would suck to be disappointed because you have this idea of like what something could be, and they're like, "Oh, nah, I just threw that in there." And oh, what? And you thought it was something totally different. I feel like with writing, you do take the time and to think about all these things. I mean, you're creating a world essentially, and that's how I always picture it. Like those characters in those scenarios, how would that person react? Like it's not me, and I've never been in those situations, but I can only assume something so terrifying. And I've been in near-death experiences, but nothing like planet-ending experiences. You know, something that'd be.
We all know fear.
Yeah.
To some extent or another. I mean, I feel like every person has been downstairs in a basement on the lower level and had to turn off the lights and run upstairs from the killer or scream that's on the basement to get you. I mean, we've all been there. So
don't look back. You know what the natives say?
What do they say?
If you look back and you see a spirit, your face gets stuck because
just scrunched for the listener that.
Oh yeah, sorry.
You can't see. It's a sideways scrunch of looking sideways.
And your face is stuck that way.
Wow, the spirit is that powerful.
True story. But it turns out it's because they would have a stroke, and that's why their face was...
Oh, okay. But the spirit scared them as much.
It was the spirit that gave them the stroke.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I get it. But I mean, in all seriousness, like, to be in a situation that you are so scared, you can relate that to all these different ideas that we have in some form or another. We've all had to fight for something we want, or we've all been with a bunch of friends in a bar and bet on war machines. Like, you know, all of these situations that we can just relate
ambiguous to everyone.
We're getting so many inside references that listeners are going to have to go through the whole catalog of this podcast to understand what we're saying.
And that's what you need. That's what you need, listener. You're missing out on all the goodies.
You better be listening chronologically. That's all I'm saying.
One thing that struck me was when Frank was bleeding out, it was freezing immediately. And I am a person who does not do well with the cold. You take my shirt off, take my pants off, stick me out in like 30-degree weather, and I'm freaking out, and I'm counting down the milliseconds until I can get back inside. I can't imagine living on a planet that's that cold. You know, I think we could all tell a story that we've seen videos online, or you've been there, where you can throw a pot of water out a window and it freezes into ice crystals
instantly.
To be boiling water at that.
Yeah. To be on a planet that's that cold was...
Have you been to that planet?
No.
He's been to Hoth.
Reading the story really made me feel with the characters when you talk about something that cold.
And to have already been cut, and you're not even in your suit yet, you're freezing to death almost instantly just to get it on and have another alien, I guess technically the same alien, just pop around, come and finish you off. And I love that part just because I'm picturing like you have the instant freeze water where it's super cooled in the fridge and you like flick it and it immediately turns into slush
all the way.
Like,
the perfect slush too.
I love it. It's delicious. Yeah. Oh, please. But this with blood, I think it's a cool imagery of how cold it is. That we think of this hot liquid, this warm liquid in our body, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, unless you have a fever, and it's pouring out of you and freezing instantly. Like it is cold.
Crazy sight.
We just don't know what hot is, and we don't know what cold is. We live in this tiny little band of temperatures as humans on Earth, which we're lucky. That's what makes life possible. But, man, the severity of temperature is a very interesting thing for me to think about.
I mean, even on other planets in our solar system, like Jupiter and Venus, and like we have such varieties. And even on the planet, it's just like heat vents under the ocean, volcanic vents. And then you go to Antarctica, or even northern Canada and Greenland and a lot of the Arctic, it gets cold. They could probably survive the negative 100 for a little while. Maybe it's groupings up there that finally get it all set together and have the time to...
that article said Iceland would be a good spot just because of all the geothermal.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you said Greenland, but Iceland's still up there, north.
It's the best way, I think, to get through it is to be with people who live in those extremes. Like, I mean, say it gets so hot to the point, maybe it's not right now with global warming, it's not the best to go to the even hotter spots, but even to bring them in, be like, this is how we live in heat. These are ways that you get better. You don't feel the effects of it as much.
I certainly would not want a person who lives in Miami right now helping me through frozen intervention.
That is very true.
They're probably not going to be very good at what's about to come.
Yeah, but even like you were saying, the temperatures that would be occurring on Earth would be like nothing we've ever seen.
Entirely. Negative 400 after a couple of years. Like, maintain around negative 400 degrees Fahrenheit for a while. Maybe get a little colder, Just depends. Yeah, it's unimaginable. We do science with temperatures like that. Yeah. And you are told 100% stay away because this will give you frostbite instantly. It'll kill you. Like, be careful.
As we wrap up, any final thoughts on frozen intervention?
It's a very good reminder to me how fragile we are as both a species and a planet. We have this false sense of security as we go through our lives. We have our families, we have our routine, our jobs, our memories, our histories, birthday parties, what we think an average weekend should look like. And yet, a meteorite, or a severe change in weather, or a visit from an alien species, anything could come along and wreck our entire thing we have going on here at any time, and we all walk around as if that just couldn't happen. But it very easily can at any moment.
The human emotions that come along with these sudden changes. I think back to Luke standing there, shocked, trying to run away in this moment. Like, those very basic instincts, even in these greatest times, stick around. It's just a matter of, are they right or are they wrong? Because, like you said, we're so fragile. We are in a state of, we'd rather be ignorant, I think, for a vast majority of people. And so to be forced into a situation like this, to see which of those natural human instincts power through and those desires and those abilities and which ones fall to the wayside because they're not useful or you just don't have the courage to do them.
Well, thank you all for tuning in, signing out here. And with that, death comes for us all.
Thank you for listening. Next time, we return with a brand new audiobook story, assuming the world is still standing by then.
We would like to thank Kevin MacLeod for his music found on Incompetech.com.